Right now, there are over 38,500 registered drones flying in Indian airspace, mapping out 3.28 lakh villages and actively fulfilling massive defense contracts. By 2030, the state's objective is to build a $3.2 billion domestic market, positioning the country as a primary global hub for aerial robotics. The drone rules of 2021 were the catalyst. The government systematically dismantled aviation bureaucracy by flipping 90% of Indian airspace from restricted red zones to green zones. Permitting civilian flights up to 400 feet converted previously restricted skies into a viable commercial environment. This trajectory is a highly engineered, top-down ecosystem built on three pillars: demand aggregation, sovereign supply, and human capital. The first pillar is demand aggregation. The state acts as a market maker, guaranteeing massive, high-volume contracts to instantly create a viable drone-as-a-service industry. The flagship application of this strategy is the Swamittva scheme, a massive e-governance initiative that uses drones to map rural inhabited lands. By deploying these fleets, the state has digitized the land records for millions of citizens, generating 2.76 crore property cards that villagers use to establish legal ownership and unlock formal bank credit. This split-screen data visualization compares traditional ground surveys to aerial mapping. The metrics show a stark operational difference. Drone surveys are 10 times faster than manual data collection and yield a 45% reduction in total mapping costs. This mandate for precise aerial data extends beyond rural property lines and into major physical infrastructure. The National Highways Authority of India strictly requires monthly drone video logs for all highway projects to track progress and enforce rigorous contractor accountability. By making aerial data mandatory for massive infrastructure and mapping projects, the government single-handedly constructed a multi-million-dollar baseline demand for commercial operators. This strategy of state demand aggregation directly intersects with rural socioeconomics, particularly within the agricultural sector. Through the Namo Drone Didi scheme, the government is systematically distributing commercial-grade agricultural drones to 15,000 women-led self-help groups. To overcome the steep capital barrier of advanced hardware, the state engineered the capital stack shown in this financial flowchart. It combines an 80% state subsidy, capped at 8 lakh rupees, with a highly subsidized 2% interest loan to cover the remaining balance. Once equipped, these women utilize the subsidized hardware to run commercial rental services, operating as professional drone pilots to spray fields for local farmers. This business model provides a predictable economic return, projecting an additional income of at least 1 lakh rupees annually for each participating group. The deployment of these fleets shifts traditional farming into precision agriculture, using artificial intelligence to optimize the delivery of liquid nanofertilizers and pesticides, while reducing chemical waste. Beyond agriculture, establishing a decentralized network of rural drone operators creates a ready-made logistics grid. During emergencies, these same fleets bypass grid-locked roads to deliver essential medical supplies directly to hard-to-reach terrains. This 80% hardware subsidy acts as a targeted capital injection to rapidly scale a decentralized rural drone-as-a-service network across the country. The scale of this engineered demand raises a critical question: who builds the hardware to supply these state-backed fleets? The government established an aggressive protectionist baseline by enforcing an outright ban on the import of foreign-made drones. To offset this import ban, the state implemented the Production-Linked Incentive Scheme for domestic manufacturers, outlined in this system diagram. By offering a flat 20% financial incentive on domestic value addition, the mechanism directly triggered a 7-fold revenue increase for participating firms. The initial 120 crore rupee outlay for this program successfully seeded the baseline manufacturing ecosystem, proving the viability of local assembly. Now, the government is preparing to scale this model through the 1,800 crore rupee Mission Drone Shakti, targeting the localized manufacturing of critical, high-value components like advanced sensors and lithium polymer batteries. This drive for self-reliance carries extreme military urgency. During Operation Sindoor, the armed forces demonstrated the tactical efficacy of indigenous drones and loitering munitions, proving that domestic hardware performs reliably in complex environments. Protectionist mandates, paired with direct capital incentives, force the domestic ecosystem to mature internally to avoid the strategic vulnerability of foreign supply chains. The capstone of this sovereign supply pillar is a 30,000 crore rupee defense contract recently approved to procure 87 indigenous military drones. These are classified as medium-altitude long-endurance, or MALE drones. They are engineered to execute critical battlefield operations, including reconnaissance, electronic warfare, and precision strikes. To guarantee supply chain reliability, this specific military contract enforces exceptionally strict localization mandates. The selected firms must domestically manufacture the aerostructures, the electro-optical payloads, and the satellite communications equipment. Furthermore, the engine assemblies must be built and tested entirely within India. This visual breaks down a deliberate strategic anomaly in the contract structure. The total order value is split in a 64-36 ratio between the two lowest bidders, feeding capital into two distinct procurement blocks. By dividing the capital, the state prevents a single vendor monopoly and financially ensures the establishment of two completely independent manufacturing facilities. This procurement strategy operates as a covert industrial policy. It builds critical supply chain redundancy and secures the baseline industrial capacity required to eventually export military hardware globally. Physical hardware achieves nothing without certified operators to fly it, requiring the third and final pillar, human capital. To solve the operator bottleneck, the DGCA replaced traditional aviation licenses with a simplified remote pilot certificate, eliminating heavy bureaucratic friction for new entrants. Training infrastructure has rapidly scaled to meet demand. A network of 244 approved remote pilot training organizations has already generated nearly 40,000 certified pilots. This scatterplot maps technical specialization against earning potential, revealing salaries from 3 to 12 lakhs. Modern piloting requires specialized training like cinematic FPV or agricultural analysis. A pilot's position on this spectrum scales strictly with their capability and industry demand. By formalizing the training pipeline and tying it directly to high-growth tech salaries, the state has elevated drone operation into a highly sought-after engineering career. This cyclical blueprint reveals the complete closed-loop system of India's drone economy. Human capital feeds certified operators into demand aggregation programs like Swamitva. The capital generated from these public projects flows directly back into sovereign supply, funding the factories that build the hardware. The true strategic objective focuses on the high-margin service and software layers of the ecosystem. India is prioritizing complete data sovereignty and the rapid scaling of the drone-as-a-service model over basic hardware competition. As the system architecture matures towards its 2030 objective, it establishes a blueprint for becoming a premier global hub for unmanned aerial systems. By meticulously interlinking massive public governance schemes, protective defense procurement, and subsidized skills training, India has engineered a sovereign technology ecosystem that reshapes its socio-economic fabric and military readiness for the next century.